Alex had always imagined his new life on the space station to be quiet and uneventful. After years of living on crowded Earth colonies, he wanted a simple room, some peace, and maybe a small window with a view of the stars. He had responded to a listing for a roommate who seemed friendly and low maintenance, and he expected someone just like him, someone who would keep to themselves, pay their share of the rent, and maybe exchange a few polite words now and then. When he arrived at the small but neat quarters assigned to him, he was greeted by a strange sight. A girl, or more accurately a young alien, was sitting cross-legged on the floor, staring at what looked like a holographic puzzle floating in the air. Her skin had a soft greenish tint that shimmered faintly under the station lights, and her eyes were larger than normal, golden and intelligent, observing the puzzle with remarkable focus. She looked up, noticing him, and blinked in a way that made Alex momentarily forget how to speak. "Hello," he said cautiously. "I'm Alex. I think I'm your new roommate." She tilted her head, studying him. Her ears were pointed, almost like a cat's, but much higher on her head. She made a sound that was somewhere between a soft chirp and a word. "I am Lyra," she said finally, her voice melodic with a hint of curiosity. "You are human?" Alex nodded, trying not to stare too obviously. "Yeah, that's me." "You're not human?" "I am not," she said simply. "I come from Travara. My species has different ways." She gestured vaguely to herself, then to him. "I am here to learn human ways and to live with you." Alex forced a smile. He had prepared for a quiet roommate, not a full-on alien cultural exchange program. "Okay, that's fine. I can help with that. Maybe." Lyra's expression softened, though she looked slightly puzzled. "Help? You will help me learn?" "Yes," he said, trying to keep his tone light. "I guess that's the point of having a roommate. You teach me about Travara. I teach you about humans. Deal?" She tilted her head again, considering. Then she smiled, a slow, cautious smile that showed more curiosity than amusement. "Deal." For the first few hours, Alex watched her move around the small room, carefully unpacking items that looked completely ordinary at first glance, but were actually quite alien. There were small devices that floated around her hands, some that hummed quietly, and others that glowed in patterns he couldn't decipher. She examined everything with intense focus, sometimes talking to herself in her melodic language, which sounded almost like music. Alex couldn't understand most of it, but it didn't sound dangerous. As they settled into a routine, Alex discovered Lyra had a habit of asking strange questions. She wanted to know why humans slept the way they did, why they ate certain foods, why they held conversations in circles instead of straight lines. Some of her questions were funny, like why humans laughed at things that weren't dangerous, and others were confusing, like why humans didn't have natural bonding rituals before choosing friends. One evening, after they had shared a simple dinner of rehydrated food packets, Lyra looked at him with a serious expression. "Alex, I have a practice. It is important in my culture. It is called mating practice." Alex nearly choked on his food. He blinked at her, unsure if he had heard correctly. "Mating practice?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm. What does that mean?" She tilted her head as though surprised by his reaction. "It is not dangerous, not what humans think. It is how my people learn to bond. I must practice with someone to understand the motions, the instincts, safely. You may help?" Alex swallowed, his mind racing. He had not expected this. He thought about politely declining, but something in her tone made it clear she was not joking, and she genuinely didn't understand human discomfort. She was only trying to learn. Okay, he said finally. "If it's practice and nothing weird, I guess I can help. But, we'll keep it normal, right?" Lyra's eyes brightened. "Yes, normal, safe, learning only." The next morning, Alex awoke to find Lyra standing over him with a small holographic pad in her hands. "Lesson 1, she said brightly. "We begin." He rubbed his eyes and forced a smile. "Lesson 1 of what exactly?" "Bonding, motion, awareness," she said simply. She gestured for him to follow her. Alex sighed, resigned. He had thought he was coming for a quiet life, but apparently his new roommate had other plans. Lyra's first exercises were surprisingly harmless. She asked him to mimic small gestures, touching fingers, turning heads, moving arms in certain ways. She explained that these motions were the beginning of understanding How her species communicated trust and attention. Alex couldn't help but notice that her explanations were very literal, sometimes funny. "If I move like this, I show trust," she explained, raising her hand in a sweeping gesture. "If I move like that, I show interest. Not human interest. Interest of Trivara." Alex laughed nervously. "Okay, interest of Trivara. Got it." As the week passed, the lessons grew more complex. Lyra introduced concepts that seemed bizarre to him at first. How eye contact could indicate confidence, how touch could be a form of learning without harm, and how certain postures encouraged calmness. Alex realized that while her methods were alien, they were logical. Every movement had a purpose, every gesture a reason. One evening, Alex found himself explaining a human custom in return. He showed Lyra how humans express comfort through handshakes, hugs, and casual conversation. Lyra tried everything, sometimes getting it right, sometimes hilariously wrong. She hugged him once, awkwardly patting his back with 3 hands instead of 2, which made him stumble backward and laugh. "You have 3 hands," he exclaimed, though she only had 2. She looked confused, then glanced down at her hands and laughed, a tinkling sound that reminded him of wind chimes. As days turned into weeks, Alex began to notice something about Lyra. Despite her strange rituals and quirks, there was a sincerity to her curiosity that he had never encountered in anyone, human or alien. She wanted to learn, but she also wanted to understand people on a deeper level. Her questions about emotions, reactions, and human behavior were genuine, not prying. Alex found himself looking forward to the lessons, even when they were uncomfortable or awkward. One night, after another round of exercises, Lyra sat quietly beside him. "Alex," she said softly, "I am grateful you helped me learn." Safely, many humans would refuse. Some might react with fear. "You do not." "Why?" Alex paused, thinking. He hadn't realized how simple his answer could be or how honest. "I guess I like helping people. And you're not trying to hurt me. You're just learning. That's fine, and I like seeing you figure things out. You're smart." Lyra tilted her head, her golden eyes shining. "Smart? Thank you. I like being around you." Alex felt a warmth in his chest, though he didn't fully understand it. Here was an alien from a faraway world, using gestures and exercises he barely understood, yet somehow they were connecting. Maybe it was the shared learning. Maybe it was just friendship. For the first time since arriving on the station, Alex felt like he had found something he wasn't expecting. Not just a roommate, but someone who challenged him, who made him laugh, and who made his quiet life feel less ordinary. And even though the idea of mating practice still made him uneasy at times, he realized that Lyra's intentions were pure. She wasn't trying to confuse him or manipulate him. She was only following her nature, her culture, and in the process, teaching him something important about patience, understanding, and trust. As Alex lay in his bed that night, staring at the stars outside the small window, he felt a strange mixture of anticipation and curiosity. The next lessons would surely be more complicated, more unusual, and probably more awkward. But he was ready. Lyra wasn't just an alien roommate. She was a window into a world he had never known, and somehow, he felt lucky to be the one learning alongside her. In the quiet of the space station, with the hum of engines and distant lights of other ships blinking in the void, Alex realized something simple. Life was rarely ordinary, but sometimes, the most unexpected roommates could change everything. And for Alex, Lyra's presence was just the beginning of something extraordinary. The next morning, Alex woke up to a soft tapping on his door. He rubbed his eyes and muttered, "Lyra, already?" "Good morning, Alex," Lyra said cheerfully as she stepped inside, holding a small holographic device. Lesson 2. Today, more motion. "More bonding," Alex groaned. "More bonding? We just started yesterday. Can't bonding wait a little?" Lyra tilted her head. "It is important to practice. Often, bonding is skills. Need practice. You help me, yes?" Alex sighed, knowing he couldn't escape. "Fine, let's do this, but let's keep it simple." The morning started with exercises that seemed simple enough at first. Lyra asked him to follow her movements as she walked around the room, mimicking subtle gestures of her species. At first, Alex thought it was like a stretching routine. Step forward, lift arm, tilt head. But as he watched her more closely, he realized that each gesture had an intricate rhythm, like a dance he didn't fully understand. Lyra moved gracefully, her motions precise and delicate, while Alex stumbled through some of them, knocking over a small floating lamp. "Oh, sorry," he exclaimed as the lamp floated to the floor in a soft glow. Lyra giggled, a tinkling sound that made Alex feel unexpectedly relaxed. "It is okay. You learn. Slowly, that is normal." As the morning progressed, the exercises grew more complex. Lyra demonstrated a series of coordinated movements that involved eye contact, hand positioning, and subtle steps that seemed designed to communicate understanding and trust. She explained each motion in detail, sometimes pausing to make sure Alex understood. "See?" she said, tilting her head. "When I move my hand like this, it shows it shows trust humans. Trust like this?" Alex nodded. "Sort of. Humans show trust in different ways, but yeah, it's kind of similar." He tried to mirror her motion, but his hand wobbled slightly. Lyra's eyes widened and she gave a small laugh. "Not exact, but good. You learn." Quickly. By mid-morning, Alex started noticing something unusual. Lyra's exercises weren't just about motion. They seemed to include reactions and emotions. She would pause suddenly, tilt her head, and watch his face, waiting for subtle responses. Sometimes she smiled, sometimes she frowned slightly, as if measuring how he felt. Alex realized that her practice was as much about reading emotions as it was about physical gestures. "You're watching me?" he asked, a little surprised. "Yes," she said simply. "I must understand humans." To practice bonding. Bonding all includes feelings. Not dangerous, learning only. Alex shook his head and smiled. She was so serious about this, so completely honest, that it was impossible to be annoyed. He found himself paying close attention to his own movements, trying to mirror her as best as he could. For the first time, he realized how different alien learning could be. It wasn't just about memorizing actions. It was about truly observing and understanding another being. After a short break, Lyra brought out a small device that projected holographic shapes into the room. Lesson 3. Interaction Patterns. We practice understanding space and motion together. Alex raised an eyebrow. "Interaction patterns?" "Yes," Lyra said. "You move. I move. We see. We learn." He soon found himself navigating around her carefully, avoiding bumping into the floating holograms while trying to mirror her steps. At first it felt awkward, almost like a clumsy dance. But slowly, Alex noticed that the movements were creating a rhythm, a silent communication between them. Every glance, every gesture, every small shift in position had a meaning. He realized that Lyra's species had a way of connecting without words, a method of trust and understanding that humans had never fully mastered. By afternoon, Alex was exhausted, but also intrigued. He paused, leaning against a wall. "This bonding practice, it's kind of amazing," he admitted. Lyra's eyes brightened. "Amazing? You like it?" "Yes," he said honestly. "It's strange, but it's interesting. You're really focused, and it's impressive." Lyra tilted her head, considering. "Focused. Impressive. You say nice words, humans are kind," Alex laughed. "Well, we try. I mean, some of us," Lyra giggled, floating slightly in place, then landed gently. "I enjoy your company, Alex, even when motion is difficult." Alex felt a warmth in his chest. Her words weren't romantic. They were genuine, almost childlike in their simplicity, but they made him feel appreciated. He realized that the alien girl, despite her strange rituals and unfamiliar ways, was forming a connection that was real and meaningful. Later that evening, Alex found himself explaining more about humans, answering questions about social behavior, humor, and gestures. Lyra listened intently, asking questions that made him think. "Why do humans smile when nervous?" she asked. Alex chuckled. "It's kind of a reflex. We try to hide our feelings sometimes, but smiling makes it easier to interact." Lyra nodded slowly. "Reflex. Interesting. We have reflexes, too, but different." As they talked, Alex realized that he was learning just as much from her as she was from him. Her perspective on life, on observation, on interaction, was unlike anything he had encountered before. And though her mating practice had sounded strange and awkward at first, it was really a window into a completely different way of understanding relationships, trust, and communication. Over the next few days, the lessons continued. Lyra introduced new exercises that required coordination and timing, watching his reactions carefully. Alex struggled at times, tripping over a holographic display or misreading her signals, but Lyra was patient, correcting him gently without judgment. Her focus was always on learning and understanding, not testing or mocking. One day, while practicing a particularly complex movement, Alex accidentally bumped into her lightly. She didn't recoil or get upset. Instead, she tilted her head, blinked, and said, "Unexpected. But okay. Lesson continues," Alex laughed nervously. "Yeah, lesson continues." It occurred to him then that her species must have very different thresholds for physical contact. To her, a minor collision was not offensive or intimate. It was just part of learning. That realization made him relax, and the exercises became easier, even fun. They moved together with more coordination, almost like a dance, communicating silently through gestures, steps, and expressions. By the end of the week, Alex felt a subtle shift in their relationship. Lyra was no longer just the strange alien girl who had moved in. She was a partner in learning, a friend, and someone who challenged him in ways he had never expected. He admired her dedication, intelligence, and honesty, and he could see her growing more confident with each passing day. One evening, as they finished a particularly long session, Lyra looked at him seriously. "Alex, I understand more. Humans are complex, but you are patient."
You teach.
"Kindly." Alex smiled, feeling a little embarrassed but pleased. "Thanks, Lyra, you're learning fast, and I enjoy helping. It's interesting seeing how you think and move." She tilted her head and blinked. "Interesting? Good, I enjoy you, too." Alex felt a mix of surprise and warmth. Her words were simple but sincere, a reminder that connection didn't need to be complicated. It was about patience, understanding, and respect, things that transcended species. As he lay in bed that night reflecting on the week, Alex realized how much he had changed. His quiet life on the space station had turned into something far more engaging and extraordinary. Lyra's presence, her lessons, and her curious, intelligent nature had transformed a simple roommate arrangement into an experience he would never forget. He smiled to himself, thinking about the next week. He had no idea what new exercises she would introduce, what questions she would ask, or how awkward or funny the lessons might become. But he knew one thing: he was ready. Lyra wasn't just an alien roommate. She was a window into a world he had never known, and learning alongside her was becoming one of the most exciting adventures of his life. And as he drifted off to sleep, listening to the gentle hum of the space station and the distant twinkling of stars, he felt a sense of anticipation. The lessons would continue, the motions would grow more complex, and the bond between human and alien would deepen. For Alex, this was only the beginning. The days on the station began to settle into a rhythm, but Alex quickly realized that settle was a relative term when living with Lyra. Her learning exercises had grown more sophisticated, and every day presented new challenges. Today, she had announced, was about emotional coordination, a concept that sounded both simple and terrifying to Alex. "You must notice reactions," she explained, her golden eyes locked onto his face. "See tiny movements. Learn feelings, human. Signals, important." Alex rubbed the back of his neck. "Notice reactions. Okay, I think I can do that." He had no idea how he could possibly keep up with her. She was already reading him like a book, observing every blink, every twitch, every hesitation. They began with small gestures. Lyra would move her hands slowly, tilt her head, and change her expression in subtle ways. Alex had to mimic her exactly while maintaining eye contact. If he missed even the tiniest detail, she would stop, shake her head, and start over. At first it felt tedious, but he soon realized that these exercises were training him to notice things he had never considered. The way she blinked, the angle of her head, even the smallest shift in weight could convey meaning. By mid-morning, Alex was sweating and exhausted. "I never thought noticing a blink could be so intense," he muttered. Lyra gave a faint musical laugh. "Blink, yes. Small things matter, tiny movements carry meaning." As they continued, Alex began to see patterns. Lyra's species communicated through a combination of motion and expression. She was teaching him a new form of attention, a way to understand someone's state of mind without words. It was almost like learning a language, except the vocabulary was entirely physical. After a while, she paused and said, "Now, Reaction test. I change motion. You respond. Without thinking. Reflex only. Alex nodded nervously. Lyra's motions became faster yet precise. He had to respond instinctively, reading her almost before she acted. Several times he faltered, and Lyra would stop, frown slightly, and repeat the exercise. By the fifth attempt, he was finally keeping up, moving in near-perfect sync with her. Lyra's eyes lit up with what he assumed was approval. Very good, she said softly. You improve quickly. Alex smiled, feeling a little proud. Thanks, it's actually kind of fun. Lyra blinked, tilting her head. Fun, yes. Humans enjoy fun. Good. Learning should be enjoyable. After a short break, Lyra introduced a new element, group observation. She had projected holographic figures into the room, copies of her own movements, slightly varied, and asked Alex to respond to them, recognizing subtle differences and signaling back through his own motions. The exercise was complicated, and at first Alex felt overwhelmed. But as he practiced, he began to notice patterns. He could predict movements, sense hesitation, and even anticipate small changes before they occurred. Humans can be very clever, Lyra said, clearly impressed. Even with new methods, you adapt quickly, Alex laughed. Thanks, I guess humans are good at figuring things out when they need to. The next challenge was more personal. Lyra asked him to perform a movement sequence that required trust and coordination. He had to move around her, adjust to her motions, and mirror her gestures exactly, all while maintaining eye contact. It was exhausting physically and mentally, but as he focused, he began to see the flow, the rhythm in her actions, and the logic behind every step. You are learning fast, Lyra said, watching him closely. Trust builds quickly. You understand more than I thought. Alex felt a sense of pride, though he was careful not to let it show too much. I'm trying. It's not easy, but I think I'm getting the hang of it. As the days passed, Alex found himself noticing things he had never paid attention to before. The tilt of Lyra's head could signal curiosity. A subtle shift in her hands meant she was considering a choice, and the way her eyes widened slightly indicated surprise. He realized that her exercises were teaching him not just about her species, but about attention, observation, and understanding in general. He began applying these lessons outside their sessions, noticing small details on the station that others might overlook, the way a maintenance drone moved differently when overloaded, or the subtle signals from other aliens that indicated mood. One afternoon, while Alex was reading a technical manual, Lyra approached him quietly. Alex, you notice everything. Why? He looked up, slightly startled. I guess it helps. I notice things so I can respond better, and you're teaching me to notice things I didn't before. Lyra nodded slowly, clearly considering his answer. Yes, and learning together is important. Humans are interesting. Your species observes carefully. Good. Alex felt a warmth spread through him at her words. It was different from pride, it was appreciation. Lyra respected his effort, and he respected hers. They were learning together not just through gestures and motion, but through understanding each other. That evening, Alex suggested a small experiment. Lyra, let's try something different. We practice interaction with objects. Not just each other, her eyes lit up. Yes, objects. Yes, we learn space and motion. He grabbed a small set of floating cubes and arranged them in patterns around the room. Lyra's task was to move through them, performing her gestures while avoiding the cubes, and he had to mirror her movements while maintaining precision. The exercise was tricky and required coordination, focus, and anticipation. Several times Alex misstepped, knocking over a cube or losing track of her motion. Lyra would tilt her head, blink, and repeat the sequence patiently. By the end of the evening, both were sweating and exhausted, but Alex felt exhilarated. That was tough, he admitted. But I think I'm getting better at understanding your methods. Lyra smiled, clearly pleased. Yes, better. You adapt. Humans are impressive. You make good partner, Alex chuckled. Partner? I didn't sign up for a partnership, but I guess it's kind of true. The next few days brought more challenges. Lyra introduced emotion mimicry, exercises that required Alex to read her facial expressions and respond with corresponding gestures. He quickly discovered that her expressions were subtle, almost imperceptible, but they carried meaning. If he failed to react correctly, she would correct him gently, explaining the nuance behind each movement. "You must notice smaller details," she said during one session. "Eyes blink, hands shift, head tilt. Humans miss. These you notice good." Alex nodded, realizing that he was improving. He could predict her movements, understand her intentions, and respond instinctively. It was almost like learning a new language, one without words, relying entirely on observation, attention, and connection. By the end of the week, their sessions had evolved into something almost seamless. They moved together in rhythm, communicating silently, and Alex noticed a growing bond, not romantic but profound. He admired Lyra's focus, intelligence, and honesty. She admired his patience, adaptability, and willingness to learn. One night, as they rested after a long session, Lyra spoke softly. "Alex, humans are strange, yes? But you are different. You understand, not just motion, but thought. You notice, feeling." Alex smiled, feeling a strange mix of pride and humility. "I try. You make it easy to pay attention, and I enjoy learning with you. You're amazing, Lyra." She tilted her head, considering. "Amazing. Yes, thank you. You teach me too. Humans are capable of more than I thought." The weeks continued like this, with lessons, laughter, and small moments of insight. Alex found himself more attentive, more patient, and more curious. He had never imagined that a simple roommate arrangement could become such an intense and enlightening experience. Lyra's exercises, strange as they seemed at first, were teaching him skills that went beyond motion. They were teaching him observation, understanding, and empathy. One afternoon, a small commotion on the station caught their attention. Another alien, a slightly older Trevaran, entered their module, observing them with interest. Lyra introduced him as Kale, a mentor from her home world. "Kale, observe, Alex. Progress, very important." Alex felt a pang of nervousness. He had been performing well in private, but now he was being observed by someone trained in the same rituals. Kale watched silently as Lyra guided Alex through a sequence of motions. Alex stumbled a few times, but he noticed that Kale's gaze was not judgmental. It was analytical, watching for progress, efficiency, and understanding. When the session ended, Kale spoke in melodic tones, translated by a small device. "Human adapts. Faster than expected. Attention, precise. Potential. High." Lyra's eyes sparkled with pride. "Yes, Alex. Very good, Kale." Impressed, Alex felt a flush of pride. He was beginning to understand that these exercises were more than rituals. They were a way to build trust, understanding, and even admiration across species. That night, as he lay in bed, Alex reflected on how much he had changed. What began as awkward, strange exercises had become a source of growth, insight, and connection. Lyra had transformed his perspective on learning, observation, and understanding another being. And though her culture was vastly different, he felt a deep respect and fondness for her. For the first time, he realized that living with an alien roommate could be not just interesting, but life-changing. Lyra had opened a door to a world he had never known, and he was eager to explore it further. Alex woke early that morning, the soft hum of the space station filling his room. Lyra was already up, stretching in the gentle light of the room. Her greenish skin shimmered faintly, and her golden eyes sparkled with energy. "Good morning, Alex," she said, her voice melodic. "Today, more advanced practice." "Are you ready?" Alex rubbed his eyes and yawned. "I think so." "What kind of practice?" "Coordination, with objects in space, and feelings," Lyra explained, holding a small holographic device. "We need to continue learning together." He sighed but smiled. He had grown used to her intensity, and he had come to enjoy it. There was a strange excitement in these exercises, like exploring a puzzle that required both mind and body. He followed her into the center of the room, as she projected floating holographic shapes around them. This time the shapes moved independently, drifting and rotating in unpredictable ways. "Move with them," Lyra instructed. "Respond, adapt. Feel rhythm, like partner." Alex took a deep breath. He had been through simpler exercises before, but this was more challenging. He had to observe Lyra, the holograms, and his own movements all at the same time. If he made a mistake, Lyra would gently correct him, but she never scolded or criticized. Her approach was always patient and precise, focusing on learning rather than punishment. As he practiced, he noticed something subtle. Lyra would tilt her head or blink at certain times, and he instinctively adjusted his movements. It was as if she were communicating silently without words. Alex realized that he was not just following instructions. He was interacting with her in a way that required full attention and understanding. Good. Very good, Lyra said after a particularly tricky sequence. You anticipate, I'd see, trust grows? Alex nodded, feeling a warm sense of accomplishment. These exercises were more than practice. They were teaching him how to notice details, respond to subtle signals, and understand another being's perspective. Later, as they rested, Lyra asked him to explain more about human interactions. Alex, humans, how so? Respect, friendship, trust? Alex thought for a moment. Respect is listening, helping, caring. Friendship is spending time together, sharing experiences. Trust is believing someone will act fairly and safely. It's subtle sometimes, but it matters. Lyra listened intently, her eyes focused on him. Yes, subtle. Important. I understand. Better. Humans. Complex, but simple. Also, Alex smiled. Yeah, simple and complex at the same time. Kind of like learning your exercises. She tilted her head and laughed softly. Yes, exactly like practice. Humans and Trivara, both, need learning. The next day, Lyra introduced a new element, cooperative problem solving. She projected a three-dimensional maze of holographic pathways that moved slowly, shifting their positions as Alex watched. The goal was for them to move through the maze together, mirroring each other's movements and anticipating each other's responses. Alex hesitated at first. A maze with holograms? Yes, Lyra said, her eyes gleaming. Coordination, focus, trust, fun also. As they moved through the shifting pathways, Alex found himself thinking ahead, predicting Lyra's moves and adjusting his own in real time. Several times he stumbled, nearly colliding with a holographic wall, but Lyra caught his arm gently and guided him. He realized that she was teaching him more than just physical coordination. She was teaching patience, careful observation, and empathy. After successfully completing the maze, Lyra clapped her hands lightly. Excellent. You learn quickly. Humans. Capable more than, I thought. Alex felt a rush of pride. Thanks, I'm learning a lot from you too. Lyra tilted her head, considering. Yes, we learn together. That is important. Practice. Not just motion, but understanding feelings, intentions. Over the next several days, their exercises grew even more complex. Lyra introduced sequences that combined motion, observation, and subtle emotional cues. Alex had to read her expressions, anticipate her gestures, and respond instantly. At first he struggled, missing cues or responding too slowly. But Lyra was patient, stopping only to explain why a particular motion or expression mattered. You must notice smaller details, she said during one session. Eyes blink, hands shift, head tilt. Humans often miss. These you notice. Good. Alex nodded. I think I'm starting to understand. It's like learning a new language, but with movement and expression. Exactly, Lyra said, her eyes shining. Motion, expression, trust, feelings all together. One afternoon, Alex decided to introduce a new element himself. He created a small obstacle course in the room, using floating cubes and beams that shifted slowly. The exercise required Lyra to move through the space while maintaining her gestures and expressions, and Alex mirrored her movements. The goal was to maintain coordination while navigating obstacles, a test of focus, timing, and understanding. Lyra's eyes lit up. Yes, challenge. Excellent. Humans, clever. Teach it too. As they moved through the course, Alex noticed how precise and attentive Lyra had become. She adjusted her motions with careful calculation, responding to every shift in the environment. He realized that her practice was not just about physical coordination. It was about building trust, patience, and understanding in every action. After the exercise, they collapsed on the floor, laughing and catching their breath. Alex felt a strange sense of satisfaction. He had never imagined that a simple roommate arrangement could lead to such deep learning and connection. Lyra looked at him seriously. Alex, grateful. You help me practice safely. Many humans would refuse. You teach with patience. Good. Alex smiled, feeling warmth in his chest. I'm glad to help. You make it easy to pay attention, and I enjoy learning from you too. She tilted her head, considering his words. Yes, learning. Together, important. Trust grows. Stronger bond forms. Slowly. Good. As the week progressed, Alex found himself thinking more about Lyra. Not in a romantic sense, but with admiration and respect. Her intelligence, dedication, and honesty were remarkable, and he realized that he had never met anyone quite like her. She challenged him to be observant, patient, and thoughtful. In turn, he helped her understand human behavior, teaching her about subtle cues, emotions, and social norms. One evening, a minor emergency on the station tested their skills in a new way. A small power fluctuation caused several devices to malfunction, including Lyra's holographic projectors. Without missing a beat, Alex helped her stabilize the devices while she adjusted the exercises on the fly. They worked in perfect coordination, anticipating each other's movements and adapting to the changing situation. When the devices finally stabilized, Lyra looked at him with admiration. Alex, humans, capable and adapt. Quickly. You help more than I imagined. Alex smiled, feeling a surge of pride. Well, we make a good team. I guess I'm learning more than just your exercises. Lyra tilted her head and laughed softly. Yes, team. Learn together. Bonding grows, naturally. By the end of part 4, Alex had begun to understand the true purpose of Lyra's practice. It was not just about motion or coordination. It was about building trust, understanding and empathy across species. He had learned patience, careful observation, and the importance of adapting to new ways of thinking. In turn, he had taught Lyra about human behavior, helping her navigate a world that was completely unfamiliar to her. As Alex lay in bed that night, reflecting on the week, he felt a deep sense of satisfaction. He had grown, learned, and connected with someone from a completely different world in ways he had never imagined. And Lyra had grown too, becoming more confident, capable, and understanding of humans. He smiled to himself, thinking about the future. The exercises would continue, the challenges would grow, and the bond between them would deepen even further. He realized that what began as a simple roommate arrangement had become an extraordinary journey of learning, trust, and friendship. And for Alex, this was only the beginning. The morning light filtered through the transparent walls of the station module. Alex sat on the edge of his bed, stretching his arms as Lyra floated into the room, her eyes bright with energy. Today, final lesson of this stage, she said. We to combine. All learned motion, observation, feelings, trust. Alex smiled, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. Over the past weeks, he had grown accustomed to Lyra's unusual exercises. They were no longer awkward or strange. They had become a fascinating challenge, a way to learn and connect in ways he had never imagined. All right, he said, let's do this. Lyra projected a complex set of holographic shapes around the room. Some moved slowly, others drifted unpredictably. The goal was simple in theory: navigate the space while maintaining perfect coordination with Lyra, mirroring her movements, expressions, and subtle gestures. In practice, it was far more complicated. Alex had to anticipate her motions, respond instantly to small shifts, and remain aware of the ever-changing environment. Begin, Lyra said, her voice calm and precise. Alex took a deep breath and moved. At first, he stumbled over a floating cube, but quickly adjusted. Lyra's eyes flicked to his movements, and he mirrored her posture, his gestures aligning with hers. The sequence required full attention, yet Alex felt a strange sense of flow. He was no longer reacting blindly. He was thinking, predicting, and moving almost instinctively. As the exercise progressed, Alex noticed how far he had come. He could read Lyra's expressions in real time, noticing subtle shifts in her eyes and head tilts. He could anticipate her gestures and adjust accordingly. The holograms challenged him, but he had learned to stay calm, analyze patterns, and respond quickly. Lyra's voice broke the silence. Excellent. Alex, you perfect. Attention, motion, feeling, trust you. Learned fast. And well? Alex smiled, feeling proud. Thanks, Lyra. I couldn't have done it without you. You made it. Clear, precise, and fun. She tilted her head, considering. Fun, yes. Learning. Should. Enjoy. You enjoy learning with me? Yes, he said honestly. Every day. It's challenging, yes, but I learn so much, and I enjoy being with you while learning. Lyra's eyes brightened, and for a moment Alex felt the warmth of genuine connection. She was not just his student or teacher, or companion in practice. She was a friend, an equal, someone who had come to trust him as much as he trusted her. After a short break, Lyra introduced the final part of the lesson, improvisation. She would move unpredictably without repeating any patterns, and Alex had to respond, maintaining rhythm, coordination, and attention. It was a test of everything they had practiced, the motions, the subtle cues, the emotional awareness, and the trust between them. Alex felt his heart rate quicken. This was the culmination of weeks of learning, adaptation, and connection. He nodded at Lyra, signaling readiness. Let's do this, he said. The exercise began. Lyra floated through the room, twisting and tilting in complex motions while the holographic shape shifted in ways that defied expectation. Alex followed her, keeping his movements precise, his eyes locked on hers, reading every blink, every head tilt, every subtle shift. At first, he stumbled a few times, but he quickly adapted, moving with confidence and fluidity. Minutes passed like seconds. The exercise demanded full attention, but Alex felt a strange exhilaration. He was not just reacting, he was in sync with Lyra, anticipating her motions and navigating the space with skill. It was more than practice, it was a demonstration of trust, understanding, and connection. Finally, Lyra floated to a stop, breathing lightly, her eyes glowing with satisfaction. Finished. Alex, you succeed. All lessons completed. You understand. Trivara, motion, feeling, trust, and human learning. Alex exhaled, feeling a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. We did it, he said, smiling. I couldn't have done it without you. Lyra tilted her head, her expression thoughtful. No. Alex, you adapt, learn, observe, understand, human, very capable. We both learn together. Alex nodded, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. Over the past weeks, what began as awkward, unusual exercises had evolved into a profound experience of learning and connection. He had learned to observe, understand, and respond in ways he never imagined. He had grown patient, attentive, and aware, and he had formed a bond with Lyra that transcended species, language, and culture. As they rested, Alex looked around the room, noticing the subtle glow of the holographic devices, the patterns of movement etched in his memory, and the quiet presence of Lyra. You know, he said softly, I didn't expect this. I thought I was just getting a roommate. But this is incredible. Lyra floated closer, her eyes warm. Yes, roommate. Not just simple. Experience. Used to learn. Together, grow. Together, bond, forms. Naturally. Through practice. Understanding and patience. Trust, Alex smiled. I'm glad I learned more than just your exercises. I learned about patience, observation, and understanding someone completely different. And I think I understand you better too. Lyra blinked slowly. A gesture that Alex had learned indicated thoughtfulness and appreciation. Yes, understanding. Important. We learn more than motion and gestures together. We learn. Connection, trust, friendship. Important. As the days passed after the final exercise, their interactions became more relaxed, though still engaging. They explored the station together, shared meals, and discussed ideas, cultures, and philosophies. Alex found himself applying the lessons from their exercises to every interaction, observing, understanding, and responding with care. Lyra, in turn, continued to learn from him, adapting to human social cues and deepening her understanding of Earth culture. One afternoon, as they floated through a quiet corridor of the station, Lyra paused and looked at him. Alex, future, learning continues. Exercises. Not over, but foundation. Strong, trust, grows always. Alex nodded. Yes, and I think we've both changed. We've learned a lot from each other. And it's more than just practice, it's friendship, connection, understanding. Lyra tilted her head, a small smile forming on her lips. Yes, exactly. Human. Capable, more than I imagined. Bond, stronger than expected. Learn it together, always good. Alex felt a profound sense of accomplishment. What had started as awkward, even confusing exercises had grown into something extraordinary. He had gained new skills, new perspectives, and a deep, meaningful connection with a being from another world. As evening approached, the space station's lights dimmed, casting a soft glow across the module. Alex and Lyra floated quietly, reflecting on the journey they had shared. They had faced challenges, learned new ways of thinking, and formed a trust that transcended species. And in doing so, they had discovered the true power of patience, observation, and understanding. Finally, Alex spoke. Lyra, thank you for everything, for teaching me, for trusting me, and for being a friend. Lyra's eyes glimmered. Alex, thank you for learning, for adapting, for understanding, for friendship, trust, bond, humans capable, more than I imagined. We both grow stronger together. Alex smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest. He realized that their journey was far from over. There would be more exercises, more lessons, and more challenges, but now he knew they could face them together, as partners, friends, and equals. As he floated to his bed, watching Lyra settle nearby, he felt a sense of peace. Life on the station was no longer just routine. It was a series of discoveries, connections, and experiences that expanded his understanding of the universe and of himself. And as he drifted off to sleep, he thought about the future. He didn't know exactly what it would bring, but he was certain of one thing. With Lyra by his side, every day would be a chance to learn, to grow, and to understand the vast, beautiful complexity of life across the stars. For Alex, the journey had begun as a simple desire for a roommate. It had become a profound adventure of learning, trust, and friendship, a testament to human adaptability, curiosity, and the capacity to connect across worlds. And he knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, he and Lyra would face them together, learning and growing with every step.